From In the Beginning to the Musical Apocalypse, this is The Bible Says What. I'm your host, Mike Wiseman. Christians or Bible believers do not hold any sort of moral high ground. One has to ignore history and the present Christian fervor and bigoted atmosphere. The hatred and ignorance put forth by the blindly patriotic Christian nationalists is not a good thing. I typically avoid politics on the show because I'm not as well versed in the political landscape as I probably should be. But I do know that hate and fear-mongering is not beneficial to society. I see the Republican Party peddling bullshit and causing hateful division. And in today's politics, you have to vote against not just bad ideas, but batshit crazy conspiracies and gullible people. I did avoid the Christian nationalist topic on today's episode, something I do regret. Either way, Dallas is a nice enough guy, but boy can he dance around an answer. Let's start the show.
Is there anything in the Bible that you yourself have an issue with? Okay, so it took you reading the Bible to realize that those things were bad for you?
Yeah, it actually did. I
Couldn't
didn't
figure this out on your own?
No, Ted Bundy could be redeemed. God doesn't kill children.
What do you think the Passover was? Yahweh sets up a whole system in the Old Testament where you slaughter animals just so he's able to forgive you.
Today's special guest is singer-songwriter Dallas Duff. Welcome to the show, Dallas.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me. I appreciate
Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for coming on. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Well, I guess it depends on what arena you're talking about. Like I said, I do music. I'm a guitar player, singer-songwriter. I grew up on a lot of classic rock stuff. I love a lot of the Southern rock guitar players. Cut my teeth learning on all that. I currently live in Nashville, doing some stuff related to a whole bunch of music stuff. Some of which I can't get. There's some cool stuff happening right now that I probably can't get into until it's official. But yeah, you come out to Nashville, probably see me out playing somewhere. But yeah, I'll say this: like when COVID came around, when I had nothing better to do, I sat around and I just kind of like self offered this book that I wrote called How to Win Every Debate as a Conservative. So there's that we haven't even really even our introduction with each other. I haven't really talked about that much.
Yeah, no, I didn't know you wrote that.
but anyways, yeah. So put that together. I've been, progressively. I kind of started off my political life as more libertarian. I grew up Christian. My views on all the religious stuff are a little more nuanced and complex than probably a lot of people's. Like, I'm not super dogmatic. Like I'm kind of like I'm open-minded. I'm not willing to say I know something for certain if I don't know it for certain. But I definitely have a certain leanings in the theistic, more biblically oriented direction. I'll say that.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. I didn't even know you wrote a book, man. I have to check it out. Conservative. Yeah, that sounds like a good book. Something I want to dive into. Yeah. We'll have a conversation about later for sure.
Yeah, it's just a little coffee table book. Like I'd love to do maybe a more in-depth book that's a little more dense. But there's a lot of the reason I kind of did it the way I did it, and I'd love to do kind of a revised version. But like, there's so many books that are super dense, and like every book doesn't need to be super dense. It doesn't need to be like a book for the reader. It's like, this is more the book for like like that you sit on the back of your toilet and somebody comes into your house and can flip through in 5 minutes and maybe get something out while they're taking a crap.
Oh man, oh man, you're speaking about my book. That's my book. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, it doesn't need to be ginormous. Awesome, man. No, thank you for that. So just real quick, I don't do much politics on here. We can definitely discuss that at a later time. I really want to do that.
Sure.
That sounds fun. But just kind of throwing it out there real quick, as a conservative, you said you were conservative.
Yeah.
You believe that tax cuts for the rich are a bad thing, right?
I believe in tax cuts across the board are a good thing. So the way, and that's kind of a conversation we can maybe get into or not get into. But I think framing, the way you frame something, it has a lot, not only a lot to do with the way you understand it, but like the way other people understand it as well, and whether or not you're kind of representing a straw man, or whether you're really presenting kind of the most fair version of what you or the other person maybe might.
Yeah, no, 100%. I see. There's a lot there. We'll talk about that later. It's a whole other thing.
Sure.
100%. But I kind of want to dive into the religious part of it, of course, obviously.
Sure.
I mean, that's why we're here. So can you explain to me what the Bible is to you?
What the Bible is to me. So this is just my kind of perception of it, my personal view. I think it's a book that is, I believe it is representative of, at least a lot of it is representative of a greater truth, and there are a lot of greater truths that are represented within it. Where me and maybe certain really kind of more orthodox people differ is that I'm much more open to there being maybe errors in it, maybe misinterpretations that are within it. That maybe there's more that isn't meant to be literal, that is taken literal by a lot of people, and where I am most drawn to it is more so not even in it's like in the divinity part of like, all these like the miracles and spirits and all that stuff, but more so in more so in the kind of the practical sense of, if you apply the things that the moral things that are represented within it, that are kind of the dictates. Okay, if you live your life this way, then it'll probably be pretty good, and society will be pretty good.
Gotcha.
That's kind of, my perspective. Hopefully that gives you at least a general sense of where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no, I mean, so as far as I'm getting out of it, you think there could be errors in it? Are
sure.
there any errors?
Certainly. Go ahead.
No, are there any errors you can think of off the top of your head that are in there that you've come across or struggled with?
Well, I mean, there probably, I know there are, and again, I'm not the person that like can rattle off verses like, oh, John 16:4 says, I'm not that knowledgeable in the sense of some people that can do that, but I mean, not really specifically off the top of my head.
All right. Well, I mean, we can get into that later for sure, but you do admit that there are errors in there. Correct. So it's not inerrant. It's not perfect. It's not without flaw.
Yeah, well, I mean, and there certainly are certain verses too that are kind of, you'll get one, and again, I'm drawing a blank on specific, so I'll apologize for that. But there's like one person that kind of saw something that was represented one way, another person that saw something that was represented a little bit a different way. That doesn't necessarily like make it not true. That it just means that, just like, okay, here's like an example, like, people say it's like the scene of a car accident or whatever. If a handful of people view a car accident and you get slightly different reports, it doesn't mean the car accident didn't happen. It just means people's perceptions of what they saw may not one person's may not be exactly right, maybe the other person's may not be exactly right either, but maybe the truth is somewhere in the middle.
So let's say there's a car accident and there's 5 people, let's just say there's 5 people that see what happens. One person says that the guy levitated, another person says the guy died and came back to life, and the other people have different stories. Like, how do we know which part of the hearsay is true? Because when we think about it in real life, eyewitness testimony with the hearsay that comes with it, we can't really trust that, because there's going to be all kinds of different variations and whatnot. So how come we can trust the Bible, even though we know that there's contradictions in there and hearsay and people coming up with different stories? How can we trust those stories?
Well, first off, you're talking to the wrong guy in terms of like really getting into like a dense discussion about the particulars of
Hmm.
of the Bible, and like, you know, what may or may not have happened 2,000 years ago. Like I personally am more interested in kind of the more practical sense
Practically.
of the application of it, like, because here's another way that I view it. Like,
Good.
if the if if the Bible, at least in a general sense, or any book for that matter, it doesn't have to be the Bible. Like, if it's a book of advice, of moral dictates, or at least it's a lot of, the Bible is a lot of things, but it's, you know, kind of primarily, I think, meant to be a lot of those types of things. If those general things aren't applicable to me today, then it's not much use, right? Like,
Hmm.
so like, I think a lot of Christians are just, you know, Christians, Jews, or who, you know, any Mormons, anyone who kind of, you know, generally believes in this type of stuff. I think a lot of them, in my opinion, kind of miss the forest through the trees when they hyper focus on like, you know, for example, you know, there's Christians that'll argue like whether or not evolution like is a thing, or they'll argue whether or not the Earth is ten
Hmm.
thousand years old or millions or billions of years old. And
Hmm.
to me, like, those are for, excuse the expression, those are like wankery like conversations, because they don't get you anywhere. Like, there's no there's it's just so, and I get like there's a certain like time and place, you know, for
Hmm.
when people are having like, you know, maybe some like some cigar and bourbon conversations with
Hmm.
friends, or, you know, smoking weed or whatever, and just having a lot of these conversations that aren't really that important. But eventually
Well.
over time,
Mhm.
you people should at least should kind of mature to
Hmm.
the point to where they go, okay, like, is it really important, and is it really useful, whether or not that the Earth is 10,000 years old, or millions of years old, or billions of years old? I would say no. I would say that's a totally like that's a total waste of energy,
Hmm.
in my opinion.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. So you're what I'm getting out of it is you're gonna ignore the contradictions and you're gonna
No, I don't.
focus on the truth part of it.
No, I'm not saying I ignore them. I'm saying,
Gotcha.
I'm saying they're. I don't find those particularly important, for the way the way I view the importance of these, of kind of the Bible. I do think
Gotcha.
it's important. I do think it's useful,
Hmm.
and I do believe that there are divine truths that are represented within it. Like, I
And
personally
we'll get to
believe in
that. Yeah.
God. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
I
We'll get to
personally
those
believe.
truths.
Yeah, I mean, I believe personally believe in God, and, you know, and it's not one of those things where, and I think more religious people just need to be honest about this in particular. But, you know, I can't prove there's a God. I have no empirical basis for. I mean, I can give you reasons why, like, that I think are rational,
We'll get
why
into
I
that.
think
We'll
maybe.
get into that.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 Thank you. We'll get into that for sure. I want to get back to those contradictions. The car accident too. Are there any contradictions in there that you struggle with? Um, since you don't ignore them and you do focus on them, or at least acknowledge them. Are there any in there that cause you to struggle, or anything that you have an issue with as far as the contradictions go? Anything in there
Well,
that you can't, you know, reconcile
um,
with?
well, I mean, do you have any off the top of your head that you want to
I mean, there's
discuss?
so many contradictions. I mean, I'm just gonna click over here on my little Evernote thing and click contradictions. I mean, I wrote a book and there's a whole chapter on contradictions too. One of the major contradictions that I see is, let's go over here to, sorry, everything is not in the right spot. 2 Samuel 24 versus 1 Chronicles 21. When you go to 1 Chronicles 21, Satan tricked David. When you go to 2 Samuel 24, Yahweh tricks David. The result is the death of 70,000 Israelites by a wrathful plague by Yahweh. But either way, there's two different stories. Well, sorry, the two stories of the same thing, but there's one is Yahweh's responsible, one is Satan's responsible. So I mean, it's the same story, and that's just one of the many that are in there. We're not even getting into the Jesus stories that have the different people showing up, different things he said, different times of day, all those things.
Sure. Oh, I can give you one that I've thought about and had conversations with people about. So there's I've had this argument with Christians a lot, and before I get into this one, I'll say this: like, I have almost equal annoyance with having conversations with Christians that I do with atheists. Like, I think both can be very staunchly, just annoyingly, just dig their heels in. Okay, but okay, that being
human beings, that's what we do. That's what we do.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. But yeah, so I've had this conversation on this topic. So there's a verse or verses that say that, you know, God never tempts man or humans or something along those lines. But I, you know, thinking about the Adam and Eve story, right? And I bring this up with people all the time. No one's ever given me a good answer other than I don't know.
I don't know is a good answer though. I like I don't know. Just so you know, I love I don't knows.
Yeah, no, it's fair. But yeah, the tree, right? The tree in the garden, like the only purpose of the tree that I can even conceive of, like I can't think of there being any other purpose other than to tempt. Like that's the only reason, both logically and just based upon the arc of the story. I mean, that is what it was there for. It's like, because there's no practical reason why you shouldn't be able to eat an apple off a tree, right? I mean, assuming it was an apple, I mean, that's
fruit.
Kind of how it's portrayed.
He put it in the shape of fruit that they eat. So but
a fruit, like I can't even think of any fruit that isn't edible, like, quite frankly, like that, you know, would be good for you, right?
He didn't put dog turds on a tree. He put fruit that they knew was tantalizing, edible, and nutritional. I mean, they knew that these things, and so that's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. The next point is that Yahweh let the bad guy in to convince them to eat the tree that he should never have put there in the first place. All of these things were set in motion by a God, a being that knows everything. There's so many issues with just the first story in the Bible, let alone the rest of the book. I mean, there's so many problems with just the first part. And I'm glad you recognize that, though. So how do you reconcile that? How does that work for you?
I'm not a biblical literalist. It's actually very simple. My worldview is not complicated. It is not. So you're not going to.
So is that an error? What is it?
You're not going. An error? What do you mean?
What is it? What is that first story? What is that Genesis story to you? Is it just hyperbole? Is it just poetry? What is it?
I don't know, but I don't think it's literal. I don't think that literally happened.
Well, how do you decipher what literally happened in the Bible and what didn't literally happen?
I don't.
You don't. So we don't have a resurrection. So Jesus didn't rise from the dead. You don't know?
Well, I don't. Well, there's the belief part, and there's the what I know part. Like,
okay.
So
okay. Go ahead.
So, well, I'll tell you where I stand firmly on, and where I'm very wishy-washy on. Like I'm pretty firm. I'm pretty firm on the idea that there is a God of kind of the, at least it in the biblical sense, that the morality that is represented in the Bible in terms of the moral dictates, that there is such a thing. There is such a thing as absolute right and wrong. That I believe that, and I think that I think the Bible as a document is the best representation of what I believe is morally represented as morally correct in terms of the dictates and the things of okay, like this is right, this is wrong. Now that's not to say that I believe it's a morally perfect document.
Okay.
But I can't think of one that is better, that is a better moral
That doesn't mean there's not one out there, though. 100%. So is there anything that you find in there that's not very moralistically grounded? Is there anything in there you have an issue with as far as morals go?
I mean, yeah, there are things that I have issues with that I question and wonder about, like and again, the way I reconcile them, that for me is that I don't necessarily take everything literally, and
Of course not. Yeah, you can't.
And then I sleep well at night, like
That's
but,
terrible, though. You got to look more critically into these things. No, 100%. Like, I don't believe that you go out there stoning witches to death. I don't think you do that.
Well, I don't accept the notion that I don't look at these things critically. Just because I don't think that everything that I think has to be empirically based doesn't mean that I'm not thinking critically about things.
Give me one good moral in the Bible, the best moral in the Bible that you can think of. What is the best one?
Well, I mean, the 10 Commandments are a great start. Like,
worshiping an invisible man is not a great start. Loving each other, accepting each other for who they are, that's always a good thing. But worshiping a jealous God who's going to punish your children if you don't worship him, I don't see that as a good thing. So if we're going to go into the love your neighbor part, is that where you're going? Love your neighbor part, don't murder and all that stuff?
Well, okay, if you want to start with the don't have other gods before me, let's just look at that from a practical historical standpoint.
Okay.
like
all right.
Like the amount of slaughter and that human beings have done in the name of other gods.
All the gods.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's true. But I mean,
so how about we don't slaughter in the name of a god? That solves the problem right there.
Well, first of all, like, and this will get into maybe a more nuanced, complex discussion if you want to go down the road. But killing in and of itself is not immoral. It's the reason. Hopefully, we can agree on this. It's the reasons.
The reason.
Yes. The reasons why you kill somebody is what makes it moral or immoral.
Yes. 100%. Oh my goodness, we're going to have a blast right now. Okay, so can God kill for bad reasons?
I don't believe he can. If you accept, and again, this is based on the premise that it's kind of a starting point that you kind of either start from or you don't start from, is that I believe that, like, God by his nature is morally perfect. Therefore, like, it's
why do you think that?
It's not. That's just what I believe.
Why do you believe that, though? Why do you believe that God is morally perfect?
Well, okay, let's there's no way there's no that I can't prove it to you. I don't want you to prove it. I want you to tell me why you believe it. Why do you believe that God is morally perfect? Why is God morally perfect?
Why do you believe that God is morally perfect? Why do you believe that God is morally perfect?
Can I use an analogy that'll maybe, like, help you kind of understand my perspective on this?
Go ahead.
Okay. Let's say we have a board game. You and me are gonna play a board game, and we whether whoever brings the board game is irrelevant. Like I got a board game. Let's play a board game, and we get a bunch of people together to play a board game.
Sounds good.
And
I love board games.
Okay. Now let's say we just go, and this is kind of the atheist perspective on morality that I'm gonna throw out. And so again, just try and understand the
atheist
analogy
perspective. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So we sit down and we go, how do we play this game? And then we collectively just kind of get together and go, let's just kind of collectively come up with a set of rules to play this game, and let's just wing it and see if we can come up with some kind of agreement on how to play the game.
Well, first off, not going to happen. I'm going to tell you right now. I love the instructions. And if I don't understand the instructions, there's videos and whatnot. So yeah, no, 100%. Read the instructions before you play a game. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, but to getting to my larger point, let's say there's a dispute about the rules of the game. How do we determine what the rules of the game?
Instruction manual.
Really? Okay. And the person who writes the instruction manual
is the guy that created the game.
Bingo.
Yeah.
You get my point? You understand the analogy that I'm making?
Right. But if the guy that wrote the instruction manual kills children out of jealousy, does that make it okay for me to do so?
Well, I don't accept your premise that God kills people just purely out of jealousy.
Okay. So out of the Old Testament, 5 or 6 different places, he says he kills children, punishes children for the sins of their father. He says he's a jealous God. His name is jealous. Do you not attribute those verses to your God?
I don't accept the interpretation or the premise that you're.
Why don't you accept my interpretation?
Because I don't accept the premise that God, if such a being exists, behaves that way. That's not what I believe.
Okay, but it's in the Bible, and the story of your God is in the Bible.
But
the Bible is used to understand morality, correct? Is the Bible used to understand morality? Is God the source of your morality?
God is the primary. Here, God, either there's objective morality or there's subjective morality, right?
Okay, so you're saying you're getting your objective morality from the God of the Bible, correct?
There's no other way to have objective morality without a moral
it's okay
arbiter.
to kill children out of jealousy. If we're getting our objective morality from the Bible and from the God of the Bible, then it's okay to kill kids out of jealousy. It's also okay to drown people if you regret making them. So this is the morality you're getting. This is the morality I'm getting from your God. It says so right here in his book.
Well, first off, again, I'm not a biblical literalist.
Don't need you to be. Don't need you to be. These are stories and verses in the Bible. There's thousands of them. This is just tapping the surface of it. Like if we had a snow cone, I just went and like the little top layer of snow came off. There's a whole snow cone left. All the juice in the bottom too. We haven't gotten to that. All the juicy stuff. No, but there's so many things in there that just describe the Bible, the God of the Bible, the God that you worship, as a documented child killer, a jealous documented child killer. So is he or is he not a documented child killer?
Well, documented, that's arguable.
It's documented in the Bible. Do you believe stories where he kills children is true?
It's documented in the sense that people wrote it down. Like
all scripture is God breathed and useful for preaching, teaching, correcting, training in righteousness. In
well,
Romans, it says that all of the old stories were told so that we can learn from them to teach us.
All right. Well, these are good gotchas if you're a biblical literalist.
I'm not a biblical literist or a scholar. No, I'm just telling you, these are the things that are in there. I don't know how else to take it. When he tells me he's a jealous God punishing children, and I read stories about him punishing children out of jealousy, how else am I supposed to take that?
Well, I agree that there are things in there that I don't understand, and I don't necessarily take them as literal.
Of course not, because you'd be worshiping a documented child killer that slaughters children out of jealousy, and nobody wants to admit that. Nobody wants to admit that. Of course not. But that's what's in there. That's what's in the book that you're claiming is truth, that your source of morality comes from.
Where does your source of morality come from?
We're not talking about my source of reality. I kind of want to dive in.
We're having a conversation. I'm here to have a back and forth conversation. So
we haven't finished my part yet. We haven't finished my part yet.
So no, like I want. I'm here so we can have a back and forth.
I'm gonna tell you right now, my morality does not come from a documented child killer.
Well,
it does not. It comes from my life experiences, my common sense, my empathy. Those are three main sources of my morality. Not a documented child killer who kills children out of jealousy, who drowns the entire planet because he regrets making people, who puts trees in the middle of a garden knowing damn well it's going to cause the fall of man.
Well, I think you just threw out, without even being aware of this, I think you just threw out a false dichotomy between you.
What did I throw out?
And between your view of morality and the most Christians or theists' view of morality, because of the three things you said, I agree with. I agree with those innate things, that common sense and empathy are all elements of correct morality.
Come from.
First off,
they come from a documented child killer, man. You're telling me my morality, your morality comes from a documented child killer who kills kids out of jealousy? Holy cow. Then there's David's kid. You remember David's kid, David and Bathsheba? Do you remember that story?
What are the details?
David and Bathsheba have a kid out of wedlock. So Yahweh kills the kid. His reasoning for killing the kid is because David's sin caused his enemies to show contempt to Yahweh. So because the enemies showed contempt to Yahweh, he caused the child to die. Not just die. He struck it with a sickness that it had for 7 days, and then he killed it. Why did that child have to suffer? Why drown children? Why send wild animals after children? It doesn't make any sense to me. You worship this guy.
No.
This is your moral fiber. This is where your morals come from, is this book explaining all these horrific things that he's done and is still doing. Jesus. I'm sure you think Jesus is one of the best stories, right? I mean, the love and blah, 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 all that.
Well, okay. First off, let's back up for a second.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I feel like you keep trying to put me into this box of like, oh, you believe God literally did all these things. No, I do not.
But it's still in there. It's in there, though. The book you say is truth. The book you say is truth has those things in it.
No, you're straw manning a little bit. Like, I think there are representations of truth that are in it, and obviously
like
there are certain things. Like I do believe that there is one God, and that that a lot of the things that are represented in the Bible are representations of that. But I don't necessarily.
Because I'm throwing out a lot. You haven't thrown out anything that's a representation. What's a representation? What's a good part? Show me something good that I can't find anywhere else.
Okay, that you can't find anywhere else. And now you're putting like stipulations like on it.
100%. Show me something good I can't find from another source. Your Bible, your God is the. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Just because another source later on in the scope of history has
earlier.
Well, okay. You can't find. There was a lot of child sacrifice that was going on pre kind of the Bible, before the Bible came around and said, okay, like you don't do that. Like
Buddhism had it before Christianity, had it before all of them. Buddhism.
But again, all these are red herrings in my opinion, because like
which religion is older, yours or Buddhism? Buddhism came up with those ideas first. That means Buddhism had it first. Sorry, it's Hinduism, not Buddhism. Hinduism was first. Apologies.
Okay.
But anyways, it still stands. Hinduism came first. They had those ideas. Christianity came second. I'm just saying.
My point here is that both may be a representation of a higher truth. and that's what I believe. Like, I'm not saying like you shouldn't listen to anyone who's a Hindu or Buddhist or whatever else. Like, there's no truth represented in any of that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that, and I think it would be irrational. Like,
so what truth can I find
that
within Christianity? What morals that can I find within Christianity that I can't find with things that came before it?
I don't know. I'm not a historian. I don't know everything
None.
I don't know about everything that came before it. Like,
you can't
no,
find anything. Love your neighbor that came before it. I mean,
well,
Jesus isn't like
so what?
this. Go ahead.
My answer to that is so what? Like, it doesn't mean you're refuting something that's like that I'm not even arguing. Like,
so why
that,
base
like,
your morals on something that tells you to slaughter homosexuals, witches, and burn prostitutes, as opposed to something that doesn't tell you to do that? Something that's a little more uplifting and moralistic.
Yeah, I don't base anything on this hyper literal interpretation of, oh well, we got to do everything that they were doing 2,000 years ago. Like, that's not
Where's the good
my
part,
point.
though?
That's not
Where's the good part, Dallas? Where's the good part?
To argue there are no good parts of the Bible, that would be equally as absurd as saying this is all bad.
Where can I find it? I can find it elsewhere. So why do I need the Bible? If I can find better morals elsewhere, if I can find a book that tells me to love my neighbor and it doesn't say burn witches or stone homosexuals or disobedient children, wouldn't that be better? Wouldn't that be a better guide?
I mean, yes, and yes, like, not
100%. Yes. Yeah. Thank you for agreeing. I appreciate that.
I agree that not stoning homosexuals is better, like, than stoning homosexuals. Like,
I appreciate that.
Okay.
That's good. I'm glad we agree on that one. That's a good one. I have some guests that don't always agree on that one. But well, I mean, that's what I'm saying is the morals you're getting are from, yes, 100%. It is very disturbing. They're getting from a book that has so many bad things in it. So many bad things in it. So I don't think you get your morals from a guy that slaughters children out of jealousy or drowns children or causes the plagues in Egypt or any of the other horrific things he's been documented as doing or saying or causing.
Well, okay. I think this is true for almost everybody, whether they admit it or not. Most people, they don't get their morals like at least 100% like from any sort of book or theology or ideology. I think yes, we all do that to a certain degree. Even if you're an atheist, you're because of course, like most atheists. Listen, could you listen to what I'm saying?
Go ahead. I'm listening. I'm just
No. I'm not talking about a particular. My point isn't about a particular book. Like, my point is whether or not people have a tendency to subscribe to rigid ideologies, and atheists do that too. That's my only point. Like, so people. I think it's a human. There's some innate human thing to where we gravitate toward, we want to believe in some kind of like,
it's a group mentality
ideology
thing, Dallas. It's a group mentality thing. We all want to belong to something. We all want to be part of that group. That's what I base it on.
Yes, but that's a separate point from the point I'm making. Like, I'm just saying, like, individuals, most people tend to want to gravitate toward ideologies. So, that is absolutely true.
Let's get into that a little bit. I want to know, what is an atheist to you?
An atheist is just somebody who doesn't believe that there's a God, like, or gods.
Good. Not a Satan worshiper, kid eater, none of that.
You could be, but no, not likely.
Only on the weekends, man. Only on the weekends. So as far as your God goes, do you think that, well, I guess we got to kind of go in the whole Helen thing too, but do you think that Yahweh's tried to reach out to everybody?
Well, first off, I don't like the framing of my God versus your. There's either a God or not a God.
No,
So like
there's your God. There's 100% million different gods. My kid created a
or
a stoplight God. There's 100 gods, millions of them.
well, okay. When I say God, I meant God or gods. Yeah, like those are the options. There either is some kind of God or gods, or there isn't.
I'll just
Those
refer
are
to him
that
as
right.
Yahweh. Is that better?
Yahweh's. Well,
That's
no.
his name
Well,
is Yahweh. His name, that's
yeah.
the
Well,
name he gives himself in the Bible.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's either a Yahweh or there isn't a
We'll
Yahweh,
call
or
him Yahweh.
but
Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, there's either I don't want to belabor the point too much, but
You're good.
yeah.
You're good.
So if there is no God, and again, I don't want to we can get into like the conversation about polytheism, but I don't think that's useful for this particular conversation. But yeah, if there is a God,
It's a good
he's your
topic
God.
though.
But my point is, if there is a God, he's your God and he's my God. And if there is no God, he's there. He's nobody's God. It's just people. It's just people.
Yeah.
Just believing in fantasies, right?
Well, I mean, that's the way I see it. But I mean, we're having a conversation. We're good. We're good.
Yeah.
So the polytheism, I kind of want to touch on that just a smidge before we get back into why you believe your God is morally perfect. I don't think we've actually answered that. I know we went around a little bit. But polytheism. So in the Old Testament, Yahweh got very angry when people didn't worship exclusively him. Do you think that happened?
I have no idea. I don't devote. That's a conversation to have with
So Old
somebody else.
Testament is beyond. We'll just push that aside. We're going to push aside the whole Old Testament then. So let's go back to
I'm actually kind of a fan of like Old Testament theology, quite frankly, in some sense. But
not from what I've seen, but that's okay. We can go into. I really want to answer that question. Why is God morally perfect? I think we danced around that a little bit. I got sidetracked down some riptides and whatnot. I definitely want to answer that, but we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. And we're back. Thanks for that. Great commercial break. So we left off with why is God morally perfect? Can you give me a short answer on that?
well, I think it'd be more productive to frame it in a slightly different way. If and okay, God, if a God exists and he created everything, then he created the rules of morality, right? So now you can disagree with those rules, and I could disagree with those rules, and maybe we can't even come to a consensus. Even if God exists, we can't even come to a consensus of what those rules even are. Which there are plenty of debates even within the Christian world of what is the actual correct moral thing or morality or whatever. But if God exists and he created everything, he created the rules of morality.
Mm-hmm.
So
can he break those rules?
I believe it would be a total contradiction for him to do that. So I don't believe that's possible.
So you don't think
No.
he caused the torturing or the slaughter of any children?
That's not what I believe personally.
So you believe that he didn't? Sorry, just to clarify.
I don't know, but B, to more directly answer the question, yeah, I don't believe that a God that creates the moral dictate to not murder children can logically murder children.
So
that's not possible.
You've got a completely different God than the one that's described in the Bible.
Well, I believe in a God, and I believe that in some sense, the Bible, again, in my opinion, I know I said this earlier, but is probably the best representation that we have that of a God that represents most closely what I believe God is. That doesn't mean I think it's a perfect representation.
So he does or doesn't kill children, as far as you're concerned?
As far as what I believe, is that what
Yeah.
you're asking? As far as what I believe,
100%.
right? No,
What do you,
yeah.
what does Dallas
Yeah.
believe? That's why we're here.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't believe that.
Interesting. So what do you do with those verses in the Bible? So let's just go with the flood. Do you think the flood happened?
Probably not.
Okay, so why? Why don't you think those stories happen? I mean, besides the obvious that you don't think your God kills children, is there another reason behind that?
Another reason why
You don't find those stories accurate.
Well, okay. Now we're getting into the realm, a more kind of empirical realm, right? Like, because when we're talking about a global flood, we're no longer talking about like God, like, you know, off in some other parallel universe that we
Right.
that's
God
not even
interacts with his people.
All right.
100%. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And this is where, like, you know, I like to talk more about the kind of the more like kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. More ethereal things. But yes, the when we get into the realm of the empirical, where the empirical is possible, I'm very empirically minded. All right. So if you're going to tell me there was a global flood at some point in human history, then I definitely am going to say, okay, I absolutely require that empirical evidence because now we're talking about what happens literally right in front of us that empirical we can see evidence. in the world that we inhabit, right? Like so, and again, this you may or may not want to get into the whole conversation about just empiricism in general, but yes, I love empiricism where it's clearly should be applied, and there are other areas where I'm totally fine with having a non-empirical view because certain things aren't empirically verifiable or falsifiable.
We get into that 100%.
Yeah.
So to sum it up here, God is morally perfect because you don't think that he did those horrible things that are stated in the Bible.
Well, God would be morally perfect by definition if he created morality itself.
Yeah, but when he slaughters children and his morality is don't do harm,
I just told you a
contradiction there?
I just told you I don't believe in a God that does that, though.
Right, which is what I said, and then you came, which is what I said. That's fine. So the empirical evidence part. Do you believe Jesus resurrected from the grave?
I'm completely agnostic on that question.
That's part of being a Christian. That's the whole point.
I didn't say I was a Christian. I said I was theistically, biblically minded.
I'm sorry. I saw a post that you were about Christianity. I apologize.
Well,
so you're not a Christian.
I do, to be completely clear, I do have an affinity towards Christianity, but I don't personally call myself a Christian. Like,
so you are a Christian, but you just don't call yourself a Christian.
No, I said I would call myself. I definitely call myself a theist, and I definitely have a certain warmth towards the Bible in a certain sense.
Why the warmth towards the Bible? What is it that draws you to that book?
Well, and I'll give you my answer. You may not find satisfying, but like
that's okay.
But that I believe that whether it be a religion or whatever, like politics, religion, whatever, I believe you judge something primarily by the fruit it produces. And as far as human beings go, and again, just given the fact that, you know, we're all morally imperfect, and the arc of human history, everybody's done plenty of bad things.
Usually in the name of religion, though.
Well, we can get into that, and that's just total horse shit. Like, but we could that.
Oh man, but, Hitler was a Catholic. Just to throw a wrench in the gear here. Just so
actually,
you know.
no. actually no. I'll
Had the
send you.
support of the Catholic Church and everything.
No, I'll send you
did.
No, I'll send you numerous articles.
I don't want numerous articles. I want to talk
not
about
even
it.
not even from not even from conservative sources that will totally like dismantle that
Weird.
whole
Weird.
thing.
I've seen videos and pictures and whatnot, but that's okay. We can that's a whole nother thing. But go ahead.
But yeah, the Christianity produced more goodness in the world than any other ideology that has and any other religion, including non-religion, like just
What are you
just
basing
all of
this
it.
on? What are you basing this on?
Okay, well, I'll give you some numerous examples. Well, first off, we at least we agree that the Western world was based, and the values that has built the Western world was founded by primarily people who believed in some version of Christianity.
I believe there's a letter that says the United States is no way founded on the Christian religion. I believe that's one of the letters from our founding fathers.
Well,
kind of counteracts everything you just said.
Well, now you're getting into a realm that I am very pretty educated on, and there
was there a letter?
There is, yeah. There's that one letter
that states
says,
it.
That states it.
Yeah.
But I'm not talking about the government. I'm talking about society. Like
I can't speak for everybody though. Yeah, and we don't have.
And I could rattle off a dozen things off the top of my head in terms of the founders. Okay, here's an example that I didn't even know until really recently when I was having a debate with somebody else on this particular topic. Did you know that like early on in the American founding that the Capitol building was used to host church services, and Thomas Jefferson, the guy who wrote that letter that you are referencing, attended.
So he went to church. That doesn't mean the United States is founded on Christianity.
I did the society.
The society is not founded on Christianity.
Yes, it is. The values of the society.
It's very secular, actually. We separate church from state. That's the whole point. Separating church and state. So we can't be founded on a religion if we're separating church and state.
No, you're conflating government and society. You're conflating those two things. They're not the same thing.
I don't know. I didn't take a poll who was Christian at the time. I don't know. Did you take a poll?
Well,
were you there?
Well, we know that that the people who founded the country were overwhelmingly
but what flavor of Christianity? I mean, we got Thomas Jefferson who tore apart a Bible and just had little bits of it. The little bits that he had were the good parts we can find in other books.
Yeah, who cares? That's not my point. My point is that the society is founded on that by people who had the values, whose values were primarily based on. It's a combination of things. It's a combination of the Enlightenment and the Bible. Like now, there were different flavors of theology. Obviously, Jefferson. He rejected the Trinity. And then you have have people like Benjamin Franklin, who was a little more deistically minded, but over time he became less and less deistic. But
so you're telling me all these guys got their morals from the same guy that slaughters children in the Bible? I'm
saying
that's where they got their morals from.
You're straw manning a little bit, like
100% not straw manning. He's a documented child killer.
Yes,
How am I straw manning that?
Well, first off, I said that they got their values came from a combination of the Bible and the Enlightenment.
Enlightenment. What do you mean Enlightenment? Explain the Enlightenment. What is the Enlightenment?
The Enlightenment period of history where it was kind of when liberal values started to
common sense took over. Common sense started to take over. Do less harm. Let's benefit mankind. Is that what you're talking about? As opposed to the Salem witch trials or the Crusades, where religion came in and kind of took over and started slaughtering everybody?
Well, first off, if you want to talk about slaughter in the name of a thing in terms of the numbers.
Religion. A
It's
slaughtering
not
in the
even.
name of a religion is what I'm talking about.
Yes, there were people that slaughtered in the name of religion.
Mhm.
Like, so what? Like,
How many have
what?
slaughtered in the name of atheism?
Well, okay.
How many have slaughtered in the name of atheism?
I reject. I don't like.
Dallas.
I don't like the. No, I listen to what I'm saying. Like,
I'm listening. Go ahead.
here's why, and I'm gonna swear for a second. Here's why I fucking hate. Like,
you better fucking not.
I think that framing, the way you just represented, or you're wanting me to answer in a particular way, is like you want to frame the conversation in a slightly intellectually dishonest way. Like, and I'll explain what I mean. I'll explain what I mean. Explain what I mean by that. So the issue, when somebody does something good or bad, the issue isn't whether or not you did it directly in the name of a thing. The issue is whether or not, to what extent were you influenced by a certain thing or not influenced by a certain thing, and what are you being influenced by? Like, so there are people, and hopefully we agree on this point. There are atheists who have murdered and slaughtered, not
Humans.
in the name of, not, yes, but again, hear me out. They have done this not necessarily in the name of atheism,
right?
But they have done it based upon a certain foundational belief that they won't be judged by any God for doing what they did. That's, I mean, if you deny that, you're denying.
If you believe in the God of the Bible,
logical,
you believe in forgiveness. And Hitler, at the end of his days, could have accepted Jesus and went to heaven.
Well,
that's your judgment.
That's not my theology, though. That's not what I believe in.
That's what the Bible says. That's where you get your theology from, is that book.
Well,
is it not?
Again, there are multiple theologies that are encompassed.
True, but they all come from that book, do they not?
Well, if we're talking about biblically related theologies, then yes, by their very nature, they would be rooted in.
Can Hitler, on his deathbed, be forgiven and go to heaven, according to that book?
Not according to Old Testament, like more Jewish-minded theology.
You can't skip around. One or the other, man.
It's part of the book.
Either you believe the Old Testament or you don't. Damn it!
It's part of the. No, again, like. Listen.
So have they killed in the name of atheism? No. Have people killed in the name of religion? Yes. Do they still continue to? Yes.
Now tell me why you think that's some sort of gotcha.
I don't think it's a gotcha. I'm just telling you, it's fact.
Well, what's also a fact is that people who were either atheists or non-religious have
killed people. Oh my shit! Human beings have killed people. Right? Some have done it in the name of religion, and some have done it in the name of whatever the farts else.
Yeah, but do you? I feel like there's a little bit of confirmation bias here. You're trying to get away from, like,
100% not. 100% not. I'm telling you, religion. They've done it in the name of religion. And some have done it not in the name of religion. I understand what you're saying is because they're atheists, they have no moral grounding or concept of judgment that's going to come afterwards, no matter what they do. I understand that. But there's people that do it in the name of religion. They copy this book, this moral guidance of yours. Where do you think we got slaves from? God tells us how to keep slaves, where to get our slaves, how often you should beat your slave. These are parts of the Bible. I'm sure you don't believe it. I'm sure it's.
Here's a question. Like,
go ahead.
Here's a question. You put so much emphasis on the Christians or whoever it was that held slaves. Okay, first of all, everyone held slaves at a certain time. But here's a better question in terms of judging. Again, going back to my point where I kind of get my views from, like judging things by their fruit primarily. Who was the first what part of the world and who were the people that first abolished slavery?
Was the Bible, I don't know, was the Bible used to
I asked you a
confirm
question.
slavery? Was the Bible used to
wait.
confirm slavery?
Again, like I'm gonna have a dialogue.
I said I don't know. I said I don't know.
Well,
Was the
okay, now
Bible used to confirm slavery?
Can I respond?
Yes.
Can I respond?
Yes.
Okay, you say you don't know, and then you ask me, okay, well, what's the answer? That
no, I
should be
didn't
how
ask you what the answer was. I'm just telling you that the Bible was used to confirm slavery, to cement it in as part of our natural.
Yeah, and well, everybody, literally everybody at the time was finding some rationalization for slavery. But the answer to the question, well, there's several ways we can answer it, and I'll try to be brief with it. Well, the Western world, first in Britain, and then second in America, and also again, this is where the confirmation bias comes in a little bit. And just think about think about like think about what I'm about to say. Like so the Christian world and Britain and America were very much established in that mindset, at least certainly at the time. Those were the first people to abolish slavery. So you're willing to ignore, like you're willing to say to be very like staunch about like look like it's the Christians that like they use this book to justify slavery.
They
like,
did,
but also used it. It was also used in many sense to justify abolishing slavery.
So you're telling me the same book that tells you how to keep slaves, beat slaves, and where to get them from also tells you how to abolish slavery?
Well, okay. First off, like
is that what you're saying?
First off, there are verses in that book. Again,
Where?
Not knowing. First off,
there's none.
No, you're wrong. I'm going to tell you generally right now, and then once we get off, I can give you the actual specific, the specific verse. But there are numerous verses that say there's one that says like if you buy and sell a human being, you should be put to death or something along those lines. Yes,
it's not in there. Yeah, it's not in there. It tells you where to get them from. Yes, it tells you. It tells you.
I'll
go ahead. Find me that verse. Find me that verse.
I will. I'll send it to you, and you'll be like, oh, damn! I didn't even know that was in there. Like
weird. First Peter, this is New Testament. 1 Peter 2:18 through 21. Slaves, submit yourselves to your masters with all respect. Not only those who are good and considerate, but also those who are harsh. For it is commendable if a man bears up under pain of unjust suffering, because he is conscious of Yahweh. It just goes on. It's a good thing to be a slave.
The fact that
don't see where Yahweh says don't keep slaves. There's not one spot in the Bible where Yahweh says don't keep slaves.
Is the fact that the Christian world was the first to abolish slavery, is that completely irrelevant to you in your mind?
It is, because they're the ones that concreted it in using their own book.
No, slavery existed before Christianity.
That means they cemented it in. It was here. They cemented it in using their book.
And who abolished it? The Christians.
People, man.
People
that saw that the Bible was wrong. People that saw that Yahweh's way of doing things was wrong.
People who were predominantly Christian abolished slavery.
Who saw that Yahweh's moral guidance as far as keeping slaves was wrong.
Why wasn't it somebody else? Why didn't the atheists why weren't they the first ones to speak
Doesn't
up
matter.
about it? It does matter.
Dallas, the problem is that Yahweh condoned this activity. He never once said it's not a good thing to keep slaves. He never once said do not keep slaves.
Wrong.
Not once.
Wrong. I'll send you the verse.
I would love for you to send me that, Dallas, because I have looked and there's not one place in the entire Bible where Yahweh says, hey, don't keep slaves. This is not a bad thing. You know what else isn't in there? Don't rape. Not once. He has it as a punishment. If you don't listen to him, he's going to cause your wife to be raped. There's another place in there that says if you don't yell loud enough, both of you deserve death. It's a horrible thing, man. Horrible thing. So, car accident. I wrote down car accident. I don't remember why. But we'll go back to that. Good or bad? How do you decipher what's good or bad?
Well, how do I decipher what's good or
Yeah.
bad? Okay, yeah, I mean, it's fair. That's a fair question. I will admit to the fact, and I think this is true for everybody. I think there's a certain element of things that we think, and I personally believe there's a certain divinity to this, but it's maybe a separate point. Like that I feel in my soul and in my gut that are wrong, and maybe I and other people do this. We use doctrines as kind of an ad hoc rationalization to go, well, I think this, therefore, I'm looking for something that most closely aligns with like what I kind of innately feel. I will say, however, there is some danger to relying too much just on your own good intentions or your own feelings. I mean, I think good intentions have done a lot of bad in this world. Good intentions have probably done more bad in this world than bad intended. Than
The
people
road
with bad
to
intentions.
hell is paved with good intentions.
Hey, now that we agree on.
Yeah. No, but seriously though, like, so how do you tell good or bad? Like, yes, the road is paved with good intentions, but how do you tell good from bad? Do you use this book, or do you use your own senses and experiences?
Both. And I think most people, in some sense, like use that. Like I said, we all, I think we all have some innate sense that we use and we draw from, and then I think most people are looking for some kind of doctrine as well that they can look towards that to justify that as well. And I don't think, and this is just kind of a part of my whole belief that like I kind of, we're all flawed in some sense. I don't think anybody perfectly has a exact proper perfect sense of what is right and wrong. I don't know if there's any single human being on earth that every single thing that they think, again, I'm going off of the assumption that there is such a thing as right and wrong, right? Like, because I believe that and right and wrong. And okay, I should probably throw this in too, because I think it's important for you to understand, just me personally, where my thoughts come from. A lot of people, most religious people think like, I believe in God, therefore I believe in right and wrong and what have you. My thinking is actually the inverse of that. It's I believe in absolute right and wrong, therefore it logically follows that I believe in God.
But which God, though? Where does this God come from? It's clearly not the God of the Bible. I mean, we've established that. Where does this God come from?
Well,
who is he?
Well, those are two different questions.
True. True. But where does he come from, and who is he? Because it's not this guy. 100%, you don't believe the stories that are in here. So it's not this guy. Who is it? And where does he come from?
Well, the whole concept of God is a very complex one that nobody fully understands, right? Like, but
so yeah,
God, just to finish the question, answering the question, the concept of God by its very core nature is that God is the thing that just has always been, which is a mind-blowing concept that nobody can fully logically comprehend. But then again, like,
or explain, because it doesn't make any sense.
Well, you can't. Nobody can explain in a logical sense, like how all of this really got.
This
here
is reality,
either, like,
though. You're talking about an invisible man. That's completely different from reality, the reality we live in.
Well, I reject your framing that, because I believe that you're talking about the reality that we can see in front of us. There's plenty of reality that we don't even know about yet.
Such as what?
Well, I'll give you an example that we could both, I almost guarantee, agree upon. That there's probably some probability that there's some galaxy with some planet with like maybe some degree.
That's right, because we
of
know
life out
planets
there
exist. We know
somewhere.
galaxies exist. All of those things exist in reality. You're talking about a God, a being that does not exist in reality.
Okay, I'll give you a better example.
I hope so.
There's the idea that parallel universes may or may not exist. Like
Again, universes are reality. Those are things that are real. We know they're
well,
real. Gods are not. So
we know
that doesn't work either.
No. We only know this universe.
Right. We know a
reality.
universe exists. We know universes exist, right? Do we know gods exist? No. So therefore, it doesn't add up. It doesn't work because universe exists. We know they exist. Gods, we have no idea.
We know this universe exists.
Right.
There is no empirical evidence that there are any parallel universes.
Dallas, it doesn't matter.
Yes,
we're basing it off of reality. We're basing that off of reality. Are we basing that assumption off of reality? Do we know universes exist?
We know this universe exists.
Great. We know that universe exists. We do not know that gods exist. Do you see the difference?
Know that there's not that much of a difference because we
There's
don't know that
difference.
parallel.
Dallas.
No, it's not as you're not
Dallas.
I understand.
This is one thing we don't know exists. This is something we do know exists. So when we formulate any hypothesis with things that we know exists, it's more likely than things we don't know exists.
No, I don't accept the analogy. Well, yes, but I don't accept the analogy because you're saying we know that a parallel universes could exist. No, we don't know.
No. Dallas, stop. No, we know that universes exist. Is there a universe?
We know this universe exists.
Super cool. Is there a universe, Dallas?
There's this universe that we know for sure exists.
Yeah, we know for sure. Is there a God? We don't know. So we can't use that as an example.
Listen what I'm saying.
Are you connecting with that?
I'm saying we don't know parallel universes exist in the same sense that
you're using reality, Dallas. You're using reality to demonstrate that. When we demonstrate a God, we are not using reality, we're using fiction, make-believe, wishes, hopeful. None of it is real. Universe is real.
We're talking over each other's heads in some sense because a parallel universe is a fiction until it can be proven to exist.
But you're using reality to prove it, Dallas.
No, I'm not proving anything because it's not provable. It's not empirical.
It's non-empirical. You're using reality. And when you're using God, you're not using reality. That's okay.
You're
not on the same page.
I'm talking about what is empirical. I'm talking about what is empirical versus what is non-empirical. That's made that. I don't know if I wasn't clear on that. That's what I'm saying.
Right, but you're using reality in one instance and you're using make-believe in the other. There's a big difference there. There's a big difference.
No, I don't accept your framing because something isn't reality until it can be proven to be empirically proven in reality.
Yes, the universe is reality. Is the universe reality, Dallas?
Yes.
Is God reality?
We don't know.
Exactly. So you can't correlate the two. You can't use that as an example. Holy shit.
But I'm also saying that parallel universes also aren't proven reality.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool. I love it. This has been fun. Everybody's screaming at their television and radios right now, I'm sure. Thank you so much for your time today. I would love to do this again. We're definitely going to do a part 2. I want to get into all of the crazy stuff. Thank you so much for your time and patience today. Tell the folks at home where we can find your songs and your music.
So you can get on YouTube and just search my name. I got stuff up on there. Like I've got stuff that I've written for other artists, like that's out there. Like, so I mean, just if you're really interested, just come find me on social media somewhere, and I'll give you the information.
We'll figure it out from there. Thank you so much today for your time and answers and patience. Take care out there. We'll talk to you later. Bye. All right, that was it. We're out of there. All right, man. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for the headphones and all the everything. I do want to do a part 2 because, man, I think we converse pretty well here. I think we're sparking, but we're civil. Yeah,
I think it's the right amount of heated without being douchey.
I love it, man. There's not many people that can tolerate this, so I appreciate it. I definitely want to do a part 2. Stay in touch. I'll let you know when this comes out. It might be a couple weeks. There's one person ahead of you, maybe 2 or 3. We'll see what happens the rest of the week. But thanks, man. We'll talk to you later.
Sure, yeah, I'll come back for sure.
All right. And that's all the show there is for you today. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard and want to help keep the recording light on, simply go to patreon.com/BSW the podcast and sign up to be a supporter of the show. Your episodic tithes of $1 or more will give you access to the patron feed, unaired conversations, early access to each episode, and much more. For the latest events, BSW swag, and a peek behind the scenes, head on over to the show's ever-evolving webpage at thebiblesayswhat.com. The Bible Says What the book is out. Head on over to thebiblesayswhat.com and get yourself and your grandma a signed copy. Thanks to the cosmic powers of the internet, it is now possible to buy me a beer or coffee online. Simply go to buymeacoffee.com/BSW the podcast and click the appropriate buttons. If you can't support the show monetarily, please like, share, and or leave a review. As always, you can find me at the Bible Says What Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram pages. You can also reach me at bswthepodcast@gmail.com. And no matter which platform you use to listen to your podcasts, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next episode. Until then, would you kindly pick up your Bibles and read them? Better. Go with that one. I'm done. Fuck off.